Okay, welcome to another According to Carlo. I'm Carlo Rachopo, and my guest today is the CEO of the Toronto Real Estate Board, Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, and the CEO of PropTex. So welcome, John.
Thank you for having me, Carlo.
So John and I go back a little ways.
Yeah.
I guess it would have been, I probably first met you when I was managing for Royal LePage back in 99. Might even have been before that. No, it'll probably been 1999. I managed for Royal LePage Corporate, and you were also a manager for Royal LePage Corporate.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we really connected when we were talking about dual agency.
Yes.
First, you and I and Dan actually
and actually
created
Dan Levy.
documents.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we talked
documents.
We started the ball rolling on how to deal with dual agency
That's
in
right.
those days. Now it's called multiple representation.
Yeah.
So, John, I remember that, you managed, I know you took over two corporate offices, and they were both two corporate Royal LePage offices, for those of you who don't know, corporate franchises. And I know they were struggling because we had come out of the early 90s, mid 90s, and I know it was Burlington, and then you moved to Etobicoke.
That's correct.
And you really did a number on those two offices. You brought them back to life and made them profitable. And then that was the Burlington office. Then you moved to Etobicoke.
See what a nice guy he is?
Yeah.
He's already complimenting me.
So because I remember this stuff. So, and I thought it was great. And then I managed for Royal LePage in 1999, like I said, and I only lasted a year. I couldn't do, you were too good at it. And I didn't, I just couldn't last very long as an employee. And so I went back into sales. My daughter was born in 99. I spent a year with LePage, and then I went back into sales in Oakville. But John, you then went on. What year did you start working at Royal LePage, at the Toronto State Board?
So it's part of the whole story that you just started. So yeah, I was thrown into those, dying offices, and in both cases, just using things. And we talked about it, actually. You and I collaborated a little bit on the technology things, dropping the Cat5 cables and getting more. Remember that? So we did things that were well ahead of anybody else. Like I got rid of my shared computers in both of those places and said, you get one. Now you have to buy laptops. You go to business. You get in business. You got to go to work. And a lot of it was, market forces, but really I think they started to believe, if I'm going to work and I can work anywhere with my laptop, and even at my office, I renovated the one at Royal York Road. The one in Mainway didn't need renovation, but it was all about marketing. So I would start marketing on behalf of the office and get people to actually believe, hey, we're going to get calls. You're going to have to convert them. But technology formed a big part of it. And then, I got asked the same question. How did you do that? Because it only took me 8 months in each of those to get it to a different world. And I got a knock on the door. And it was sort of like, do you want to be on the board of directors of TREB? And
That's right. I remember that.
Huh? Like, where's this coming from? And then sure enough, I was elected to the board.
Because I had just come off the board.
You did.
In 99.
Was it 99?
99. I was, because 96, I finished the Mississauga Real Estate Board. 90s, it was 97. Yeah, because my daughter was born in 99, and I was for sure at Toronto Real Estate Board in 1999. I know that for sure. I was a chair of finance.
Yeah, you were. I was going to say. And I remember.
And you weren't there yet.
No, I wasn't.
No, you weren't there yet.
So you left, but you had it was an interesting time.
Oh, there. It was a really interesting time.
Yeah, you had some issues there.
Had some challenges.
You did. Then Don came in.
Then
Don Richardson came in.
Because he came from Maria.
He did.
Yeah.
Which was a shocker to me. And I thought, what's happening? When I heard he'd resigned from Maria, I said, what's he going to do? Turns out he ends up at TREB. And even then I went, oh my God, what's happening? But he righted the ship while he was there. And then I got recruited to the board, but I still had to win the election. And I was the first guy in the history of TREB to spam everybody before my election. I had a website and I spammed everybody. And it wasn't even called spamming at that time. So, but I marketed myself online and it worked. Yeah,
you were a technology guy. That definitely not my forte. But before that though, maybe I can say this is that, you and I were about to buy a brokerage together.
That's
and we were going to get into business together.
Yeah.
And it didn't come to fruition. And then things just changed for both of us. I got back into sales in Oakville early 2000s. and then you just started at Treb. So what year were you actually hired as an employee at Treb?
So, and that's the other part of the story. So then eventually I get asked, and Gino Romanese, Gino is a really good man. And
yes, he is.
He was
still keep in touch.
Yeah, me too, when I can. But Gino, he was supportive in so many different ways. And even in that endeavor, I was asked the question, do you want to, well, my first job while I was on the board of directors of Treb was to bring in a new MLS system. So I was the chair, and then I recruited John Meehan to be my co-chair, and we brought in Stratus for the very first time. And that's a long story, but we ended up having Stratus, an off-the-shelf system that could manage our membership. And then while I was doing that, people kept asking me, you understand technology. And I remember I went to Waterloo, so we had the best computer program on the planet, and I took it. It was one of my courses that I took. And I just fell in love with it, and I thought it was magic. So I read about it, I learned about it, and while I was there, people were saying, maybe you could help us here, So I resigned from Treb, and I was offered the job as CIO. I did that for...
What year was that?
That would have been 2002.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
2002.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and I remember the dates because it seems to me every time I took a new job, for my entire career path, it was always the same day, July 2nd, 2000.
Wow.
Whatever it was, 2002. Before that was all the other companies, so it was really interesting. And then we started looking at a lot of solutions, and MLS Stratus was the best solution then, and it served us very well, and we're still partners with them. And now Realm is an adjunct or an offshoot of the old Stratus system.
So okay, so let's move forward. So I know for years, as being part of organized real estate, it was a frustrating process in that MLS sharing information, the Oakville, the Mississauga, and then Mississauga was actually a pioneer back in the 80s, I believe. Did the early 80s, I think Mississauga joined Treb, where we were the only board in Canada that dropped their MLS system and joined the Toronto Real Estate Board for MLS.
I'm not sure if it was in the 80s, but it was certainly early 90s.
Oh, no, it was before that.
You think so?
Oh, it was before that. Definitely in the 80s. I could be wrong, but we can easily check on that.
But I wasn't in the business then.
So I got in 86, and it was definitely Toronto Real Estate Board.
Yeah.
was it. So we were the only board.
You were in the 80s? Wait a minute. Let's explore that for a second. How old were you? 18?
No, yeah, I wish. Well, I was 20. No, I was 21 when I got my license. No, I was 20 when I got my license.
20, see?
I was 20 when I got my license. Yeah. And I got involved with the board so if I was 1996, I was president, so 7 years, so 89. I was 23, 24 years old when I got involved with the board, and I opened up my own brokerage.
You were president too, right?
In 96.
Right.
So 7 years in, but I opened up my own brokerage at 23, 24 years old. I look at some young people today at 24. But yeah, I opened up my own brokerage, but it was 1990, and the world fell apart. In 1990, the real estate world fell apart. So, but I guess what I'm getting at is that we were sort of the pioneers in, hey, let's have the Toronto Real Estate Board more efficiently offer us our MLS system. Yep. Because it just didn't make sense, and it was there was a lot of people against it because we lost our autonomy, so to speak. But really, it was the right decision.
100%.
And we would still be part of the Ontario Real Estate Association, Canadian Real Estate Association functions, even though people didn't take us very seriously. We still had, 1,500 members at the time. Obviously, the fees were lower. But I think that model, we thought was going to just take off right away, and everyone was going to consolidate into a RIA, perhaps, and have one system. And been fighting for that for agents. I paid up until last year, until you did your magic, I paid 3 MLS dues. Okay. I just learned how to spell MLS recently, and I haven't been on MLS in 21 years. Since I bought this brokerage, I have literally not been on the system. So all your systems that you did, I didn't have to learn any of them.
Of course.
Because, that's not what my role was.
No, it's not.
But it was frustrating that, getting these boards to collaborate with each other.
Carlo, how many presentations did I have to do to Oakville and still get no?
Yeah.
It made no sense to me. I'm saying, guys, you're missing listings on your street because the agents aren't interboarding them, and vice versa for the Treb guys. But then I think what happened was, in the minds of a lot of people, they realized this doesn't make sense anymore. We need to have one database. We still have people are still concerned about it. They're worried about the, not autonomy, but the health of the association. So then you have to decide, who are you as an association? And then you've seen the offshoots of these things, like amalgamations of associations. You saw Durham amalgamate with 5 other associations. Now they're called Central Lakes Association of Realtors, or Guelph, now one great big organization, which makes all the sense in the world and creates viability for the association. Data is the energy, is the fuel, is everything that the realtor needs. It cannot be separated anymore. The more we do things like that, the worse it becomes. Because eventually you're going to lose the trust. You're going to lose the trust, and you cannot lose that.
And the people that are watching this, 98% of the realtors out there don't really, I experienced this. I know this. I was part of organized real estate. They don't really know what we were doing, and they don't really care. They wanted us to represent them, but they wanted the data. And they didn't want to deal with paying so many different organizations for the same information, and then having to trip over each other for the same reason you just talked about. And it's been it's just an unbelievably difficult thing to get done. And I get there are so many organizations that have staff,
yes,
that have buildings, that have commitments, but the decisions that I think were made were not always logical. And it was more of protecting, their autonomy or what they had. But I don't think the push was to eliminate that, but instead just to have the data centralized. And so tell me now, PropTex has what percentage of Ontario data?
I would say 70 to 80% of the province now is covered with one database.
And is there a light at the end of the tunnel getting it to 100?
I think so. I think people will start to realize that it's, efficiencies, those types of things,
right,
but more transparency. So as a realtor, you're going to go to an appointment, whether it's a buyer or a seller, but you want to provide them with all the information, right? You want to allow them to make a confident, evidence-based decision whether they're buying or selling. And if they drive down the street and they say, well, wait a minute, Carlo didn't tell me about this one because I didn't see it. That's a fail. That's a fail on all of us. I understand the concept of autonomy. I understand the concept that I've got buildings to pay for, but then you have to make different decisions. And I believe that eventually the realtor will vote with their feet, right? And think about dual memberships and interboarded listings and all the extra costs. By doing very few of these things, we were able to save realtors in the ballpark between $4 and $6 million. That stays in the realtor pockets rather than paying for boards that, and you said that earlier, 3 boards. Me too. I was a member of Oakville, Treb, and Hamilton when I first started. That was a lot of money. And I thought, wow, I'm going to have to sell 3 homes just to make my money back then. But now it's more about what does the consumer expect? The professionals don't care. They just want the data. They want to be 100%. And I think that when you're servicing that marketplace today, if with all the stuff that's going on in this market, you want to be certain that you're giving all the information you possibly can.
So what's before we get into some other technology issues, but just let's talk a little bit about the politics. What's preventing that 20 or 30% of the marketplace not coming onto Trump? What are the real barriers?
Well, some of it is geography. They don't people in the north are coming, but do they need to? Not really, you know,
Because there's no overlap.
well, no,
There's very little.
Exactly. But when you talk about marketplaces, you know, west of here, and you look at Ottawa has a great overlap with all those places, they're basically on. There's a couple of small boards, and if you, without naming them, that they've decided they want to be separate. Well,
Right.
God bless you. But I really can't think of a good reason why they want
But
to
the
be separate.
realtors in those boards, if they decide that,
Yeah.
hey, that's what they want and they're willing to pay for it, I guess so.
Nothing you can do about that.
Right.
It doesn't prevent your salespeople here from trading in those areas.
Right.
They might not have. They might have to buy another membership in order to do so. But really, realtors, especially TREB members as well, like it's such a big footprint that they do actually travel with their clients, and you know that, and so do realtors everywhere do that. But I think, you know, we're seeing more and more that I choose my realtor, not whoever's in the area. And realtors have to follow their clients because they say, I want to buy in Muskoka, I want you to do it. And I've heard that come out of people's mouths,
Right.
you know, because they're loyal to that realtor. But I think I want to mention one thing that you said kind of earlier about how bad it was in the 90s. Do you remember how bad it really was, like 94, 95? Yeah. But do you remember in 96, the world all of a sudden changed overnight. Overnight.
It was
and
unbelievable.
It was crazy. I had like 3 listings. I had 3 buyers. 3 weeks, all of them went.
It was incredible.
It was crazy. So one of the interesting things is we're in a kind of the same sort of situation now, I think. There are different forces at play. But when you look at the marketplace today and you look at the condo market in the city, I'm kind of confused. If they're not selling condos, right, and they might be renting them, eventually, if you're buying it for less than what it costs to build, isn't that a good decision? If they're buying it at $650 a square foot, but it costs $1,000 to build, I don't know.
That's where we were at in the 90s.
Right. I think this is where we are now.
It's not quite that extreme.
No, but I mean,
I think it could get there. But no, they were selling for 40% condos, and then by 95 was the bottom of the market.
I remember that.
And they were selling condos at 40 to 50% below what the original price was. People here don't, you know, I talk to my agents all the time. They don't believe me. I go, I saw it. Matter of fact, I owned one.
I lived it.
Yeah. I bought a condo from Bramley and Brampton, 10 Laurel Crest, for $130,000 in 1989. It hit $80,000. $80,000. So don't tell me it can't happen. So as a percentage, it's not quite 50.
No.
But it's not pretty. So it can happen. But, you know, look, this is a cycle. I think we knew this was coming. We're going to come out of it. And it's going to turn around. I'm not sure exactly when, but it will turn around. The supply will get absorbed. It's just how long is it going to take?
Well, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the immigration numbers and the volumes of people in our area and what's happening in that particular space, by rights, we should be doing well over 100,000 transactions.
Yeah, but we're not even close.
We're not even close.
Trump, I know.
And yeah, the Trump factor. You almost said
well,
it.
No. I'm saying, no, I know the transaction because we follow this office is just lockstep with TREB.
Yeah.
When they're down 30% in sales, we're down. It's incredible. My office is just a cross section of TREB. It's crazy.
Well, I think that's natural. Right?
But some of the bigger offices I find are doing a little bit better in terms of percentage losses. But it's amazing. We're just lockstep. So yeah, I mean, we should be having more volume, but it's the uncertainty issue. It's the fear issue. We just had our previous guest, Simeon, was here, and he said there's the people's mentality, people's mental state right now is just so confused and fearful.
And I think there's also, I ask people how their markets are doing outside. And some of them are saying, well, it's pretty good here.
Yeah, it's okay.
And maybe it's price point.
Yeah.
Right? Is it price point? Are people deciding? But we did a survey earlier this year, just before our market year in review report. And we learned that over 50% of people in the GTA are planning to leave it in the next 5 years. But when we ask people 17 to 34, 70% of them are saying they're going to leave the GTA in the next 5 years. Why? Lifestyle, costs. Other factors. There's like a litany of things, the reasons they gave. But I still believe that if you look at it carefully right now, there's a lot of buyers out there keeping their
100%.
Right? Would you agree with that?
Well, because we find as soon as you price something properly, Condo market's a little challenging, but as soon as you price something, especially a resale, it goes.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Because it's priced properly based on today's market. Okay, let's talk about where are we going? I mean, you're a technology guy. Where are we going in the AI space in terms of real estate?
I almost said something bad.
Yeah.
But where are we going? Well,
yeah, give us,
if we're not careful.
Yeah, give us your vision. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and you've seen incredible changes and evolution of technology in our space. Where does AI fit in all this?
So I'm actually participating in a government panel to talk about putting good guardrails around AI, like laws. And I was invited a couple weeks ago, and I'm not sure when the first meeting is, but there's a lot of hesitation around a lot of the initial, let's say, tools that people are putting in systems right now, because there's a lot of things you can do with AI, and there's several types of AI. Right now, we're in, I guess, phase 2 of AI, which would be, the one that just basically takes data, phase 1, and then crunches it and gives you an answer, ChatGPT type thing. Well, agentic AI starts to make some decisions and gives you suggestions. Right. Well, maybe you want to do this, right? And there's a lot of different phases here, but I think that AI will be an amazing tool if we implement the right tools. For instance, imagine having a tool that will be able to take the data and, based on my comment earlier, is this a good deal to buy at this time, this condo that's now not moving or what have you? And what's the percentage? Is it a good thing? It's like an AVM on steroids, let's say. Those types of things. But are they going to be 100% correct? Did the AI go into that building? Have they seen the lobby? Did AI smell the cat? You know what I mean? Still requires a human being. No matter what you say, I don't care what it is. But when you go into certain places, yourself, it's all your senses have to be part of it, right? So AI is a tool. Correct. As long as we keep it as a tool, we're good. But the moment we start depending on it, goodbye.
Yeah. I tell people this constantly, and it's there. I still haven't seen a scenario. I remember when Treb Vision came out.
I love that program, by the way. Okay. It was one of the smartest programs
people don't
ever.
Even know who are listening here. Most of you probably don't even heard of Treb Vision.
Yeah.
It was the first time, we would pull up a listing on a computer, and it would run back and forth until a picture showed up.
That's right.
And it was a black and white picture. And we'd wait and wait and wait for the picture to be downloaded. And depending on the bandwidth we had at the office, which was brutal, this is late 80s. And, but then the internet came, and they said, oh, that's it. I remember real estate board meetings. That's it. Real estate's over. Agents are over. The internet's here. We're all going to be dead.
Yeah, sure.
And I keep looking at all these different business models and all these technology threats, and nothing has convinced me that we're going to be replaced right now. Even AI, for the exact reasons you just said. Look, these are tools, okay? Instagram, Facebook, internet, all these things, AI, they're tools for us to maybe do our business better. But ultimately, I have not seen anybody try. I mean, there's so many people, venture capital companies tried to eliminate the agent, okay? And they've spent hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, trying to wipe out agents. And nothing's ever worked. We're still an agent who needs to show the house, who needs to talk about the neighborhood, who needs to explain to me why this is a good investment, why it's not. And ChatGPT can only do so much of that.
So to that point, I have just had this debate with someone the other day. I said, look, you're right. I mean, technology can give you a price. You could do AVMs. You can do all those great things. But it's not going to be able to tell you why that house 5 doors down a year ago sold for the price it sold, when you think it's almost exactly the same. But the agent who went into that house gets to say, you know what? I'll tell you why that sold. Because it had this, or that, or it didn't.
Correct.
And those are the things, like working your farm, sorry to be, daddy
Yeah.
real estate John, if you
Yeah.
will. But all I'm saying is a realtor has to know what they're talking about and has to have that institutional knowledge about the neighborhoods that they know. And especially in Oakville, I mean, there's no surprises here. People who work in Oakville, everybody knows everything, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the good thing. And that's what AI cannot give you unless you train it to be that. How do you train it? You got to take it with you. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
So unless someone's feeding that information saying this is the reason this house sold, AI will never be able to do that. So it's the feel, it's the sense. How many times did I experience this as a realtor when I walked up with a client and they wanted a 4-bedroom, 2-story, 2-car garage, walking into a bungalow, and the wife goes, "This is it." I went, "Wait a minute, this is not what we were talking about." Because there's something that's
100%.
something else.
Listen, buying your home where you're going to live is such an emotional decision, and buying or even selling, but even buying mostly. But so there needs to be that human interaction.
Yeah.
And that's never changed. I've been doing this 40 years and I'm open to all technologies. I'm open to all new business models, all new ideas. But at the end of the day, that's never changed.
Those are just tools,
Yeah.
right? So technology is a tool, and I'll go back because you asked me a question, I don't think I answered it. How is AI going to work within our system? It's going to make it easier to service your client. That's the whole idea. For right now, we've got Recipe AI, and it's the photos,
Yep.
right? So we're working with them on different products, and I just met with a guy this morning, also an AI guy, and I said, "Can you do this for me?" And he said, "Sure." So what I'm suggesting to these folks is make it a practical tool for a realtor to save them time, money, service their clients accurately. Accurately.
Yeah.
Okay. And always there should be something that lets the client know this is based on data. It's not based on my experience. Right. So let's say a CMA. Can I create an AVM type AI product that makes you price it accordingly? People are buying AVMs on a regular basis. But can I establish, say, okay, in this neighborhood, if there's anything comparable, make it easier for you to actually do the selection. And then you do your picks and it populates it because the realtor still has to touch it.
But you said one thing, one word. Before you use any of these tools, you have to have a client.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And how do you get a client?
Yeah.
You can't get a client through ChatGPT.
No.
You can't get a client through AI. A client in our business, because it's such an emotional decision, is still a personal relationship. And again, it's never changed. I'm willing to listen, willing to hear someone else's ideas, but I have not seen that change. It's still about the relationship. How do you manage that relationship? You got to be smart about it. You got to have the tools that we just discussed. But ultimately, still a relationship business.
100%.
And I just don't see the realtor going away. I just don't see it.
How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
That the realtor is going to be replaced, and it's never happened.
I had a gentleman in our office today, and I rib him a little bit about it. When Zillow came into town, he said, "That's it, we're done. You're done. Your Royal LePage office, it's over." And I go, "Okay, let's talk about that." I said, "How is Zillow going to wipe me out?" And if it does, hey, when Zillow comes at my door, I'll hand him the keys and say, "Hey, you won. Here are my keys. I'm done. I'm going to come work for you." But guess what? It didn't happen. How long did Zillow is a massive company in the U.S.
Massive.
It's massive. They couldn't do it here. It didn't work here. And in a way, it hasn't taken over the real estate business. It's provided a different avenue for the real estate business in the U.S., but it didn't work here. Now, it didn't work here for a few reasons, but the point of the matter is it didn't wipe out the realtor.
No.
And people think that it was going to wipe out the realtor. What I think we're losing, where I think, our industry is falling down, John, and I've made this clear in a few of my podcasts here, and I've even made this clear. As you know, I got to be very careful. I'm on the Industry Advisory Council at RICO, which I completely respect, and I love those people there, and they do a great job, and they work hard. Intentions are all great, but I think our industry is not moving in the right direction. There's too many forces that I think that we're not working together with between AREA, CREA, and RICOs and the provincial regulators. There's something wrong with our industry when it's acceptable that 85% of the people fail. And we're allowing 85% of the people who fail to attempt to represent people in what is their most prized asset. Millions of dollars these days. Yeah. And I will always complain about this. It'll always be an issue for me that the level of professionalism and knowledge that has been lost in our industry is just at an all-time high, in my opinion, because we just have too many people. I know your membership, maybe you don't want to hear this, but your membership is 75. How many we got in Toronto Real Estate Board? 75,000. So there's 70.
Give or take, yeah.
So think about that. I want you and I know how many people actually don't do a transaction. You and I know how many people actually do 1 or 2 transactions. And you and I know that can't sustain a business or a lifestyle on 2 transactions. So you take away everyone that's 3 transactions or less, and you're left with 15, 20% of the people. So
I don't track any of that stuff, so I'm going to believe you.
How can that be? Well, John, it's simple.
I know.
You know how many. So when you do 67,000 ends, or how many ends are we going to do this year? How many ends do you think we're going to do?
Ends probably. Oh,
no. How many deals?
How many deals? I'd say just a little over 60, or hopefully.
So 120,000 ends.
Yeah.
So let's do the math.
No, those are the ones that we can actually count.
Yeah, I know, because you talk about rentals. You've told me this, that there's some exclusives.
80,000 rentals. And
right.
And not only that, our guys trade outside.
The rental business, you and I know, it's very difficult. Very few people make a living at it.
Yeah.
It's more of a service.
True.
Okay?
Yeah. So
let's be careful with that. But how can there be 120,000 ends split among 75, 80,000 people? It just, the math doesn't work. And we just had Simeon here who's doing several hundred. So if he's doing a couple of 100 or 300 or 400 transactions, whatever he's doing, how many people are doing 0? Another 400 are doing 0. So
sure.
So my concern is that and it's probably not in Treb's interest maybe, or RIA's interest, or CREA's interest, or even RICO's interest, but there's just far too many people that have the ability to go and trade in real estate that shouldn't be.
Sure, but we don't want to flirt with anything that might be construed as being anti-competitive.
No.
Hold on. No.
100%.
So, but I want to go back to something you said.
But I want to get back to that. And so hold on.
Okay, hold on. Okay, then finish, and then I'll get to my piece.
So it's not anti-competitive. So do we allow doctors to be part-time? Do we allow doctors to do one surgery a year? No, they don't get qualified. They don't maintain their qualification.
I certainly wouldn't want him to do my heart.
So if you have a surgeon doing one surgery a year, he's not qualified.
No.
If you have a pilot doing 2 hours a year in flying, he's not qualified to fly that plane. He's just not.
No argument.
We don't have those standards. And when you don't have those standards, it starts to run amok.
Yeah, and look, I don't.
And that's not being anti-competitive. That's being pro-industry.
If we start talking, yes. But let's go back to the professionalism piece, because we've taken a real serious approach to that. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing, the stories that I'm hearing, are just horrible, and I can't believe that. So the circumstances are, I won't get into details, but I said, well, why didn't you just take this person to RICO? And they said, well, what for? I mean, it's going to take 6 months. I'm going to be stressed out. This guy might even get off, and it's nothing in it for me. So I'm just going to sit on my hands. And I thought, well, see, that's part of the problem. We have to make it easier for people to be held accountable to what they do. And now we have some crazy stuff going on in the north here, where people are going up to houses, knocking on doors and saying, here's a bag full of money, right? And then
it's crazy.
Yeah, and give me the listing, but here's a bag full of money before I even. What's that, right? So this is it's starting to become really upsetting to hear that the level of professionalism in some people just isn't there. It just doesn't seem to be there. And then when we're harsh about it, we get complaints.
Right. But how can there be professionalism, John? Again, I hate to repeat myself. How can there be this professionalism that you and I strive for, that you and I want, when we know the pie is this big? It's this big, but we're allowing this many people in. So what's going to happen? If the pie is this small and there's this many people, there's going to be people do nefarious things. It's just human nature. because they want a piece of that pie, but they're not getting it. And it's just not there. So we're inviting nefarious behavior, and by just allowing everybody and anybody into the system. And the educational system, John, I think is run. It's not, I've made my point clear at Rico. I think the courses are very difficult. I think the content is excellent. Implementation, horrible, in my opinion. Because
is that on the broker?
Because no, I'm talking about implementation of the courses.
Okay,
implementation
yes.
of in order for me to get a license.
Right.
By the way, it's all online.
Yeah.
What profession can you become a doctor online? You can't become a doctor. You can't become a pilot online. No. You can't become You can't become a nurse online.
No.
You can't become a lawyer online. But we allow it to be online. So when you just allow someone to join online, and then I don't think there's safeguards in place to make sure that the people that are actually getting their licenses are doing what they need to do to maintain their licenses or even to get their license. So I have a big concern with that. I have no information or evidence that it's not, but it doesn't make any sense to me.
But I like that, and I think I agree with you that there should be a higher bar for maintaining your license rather than just one course every 2
But there
years.
should also be a higher bar on actually getting your license, and that is, I still believe that I've spoken to people that I'm just shocked that I would like Rico to ask the last 100 brand new registrants to write the exam again a week later. And I want to see how many would actually who would actually pass.
But a lot of that, and to your point, and I get it, and I would agree, but if you think about it in terms of the practical side, that's on the broker, right? So they learn all this theory and some practical, but then when they get in the office, these guys come in and say, I don't know what to do now, right?
Yeah, but John, our business models don't allow. So what's happening is, you're right. You want to put it onto the broker. Okay, so
I'm not putting on the broker. I'm saying the broker, someone has to train this person to go out there, hey, do you want to sell your house?
Correct. But what happens is the person comes in and the onus is on us. That's true. It's a business decision.
It's a business.
That's why I don't hire. Now, I may have some people here that might be working because they're struggling, but I don't hire. Someone comes to me and they have a job or they're part-time, they do not get hired. Okay, and very rarely do I hire a brand new person unless they knock my socks off or they've been referred to me.
Sure.
So my issue is there's something wrong with the system in that there has to be something. When there's 85% failure rate consistently, we have to look at ourselves and say, why? Is it the broker's fault? Is it the industry's fault? The problem is, and then our models, John, come into the point where the agents are taking 85, 90, 95% of all of the revenue. And they're demanding that. And it's so competitive for people like me that I need to add numbers. So people, in order for the business to work, I told this to Rico, like, how can you have a company that has 6,000 people and 5 managers or 6 managers or even 10 managers? How can you function? That's completely contrary to TRESA, because TRESA says the broker of record is responsible for the activities of their realtors. I now have 600, 700 realtors under me, and I'm going to be responsible for what they're doing? It's impossible. But we allow those business models to exist. So it's like we're feeding this animal that just says, hey, you know what? You want to run your business? You need 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, or it doesn't work. But then how do I watch what 300 people are doing?
So that's the oversight thing. And that's been debated many times. But I think ultimately, I think that there is room for everyone. But we just need to stop some of the unprofessional behavior. And what I mean by that, hold on.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that,
that's why this is all about being real.
You shouldn't get in trouble if you're not doing a transaction. Does that make sense? If you're not doing a transaction, how can you get in trouble? Unless you're doing marketing and stuff that's wrong. Okay. But at the end of the day, if they're not doing transactions and they don't have a listing and they're not violating things, then they're not at risk. The risk is when there's a transaction. That's what I see. So the behavior shift in some cases that, again, anecdotal stories that I hear from people because they just walk up to me and start telling me stuff. I listen and I go, well, you can act. File a professional standards complaint. Go to arbitration. Call RICO, and nobody's acting. That's the problem, okay?
Because it is difficult. It's stressful. But I guess, John, I'm going at it from a different place. I'm going at it from the source. I think we would limit those problems. Never going to eliminate it, but we would reduce all these issues that you're talking about if we dealt with it from the very beginning. Okay.
So you're saying a university course, which we were promised a few times.
Yes.
And then maybe even making it more difficult to maintain, or at least learn as you're going.
Number one, but I think you have to be in person.
Yes.
I think you have to take the courses in person.
I don't disagree.
And you have to take the exams in person.
Yeah.
With your full ID. Okay. And when you want to do continuing ed, there has to be a better way, because the continuing ed stuff is fantastic. I'm doing it right now, but I just don't know. It's just easy to be unethical about it. And that's what I have a problem with.
Okay, I'm going to segue on that comment. So I remember a few years ago, they stopped this group that were taking the exams for people.
Yep.
And what they were doing was, when they were panning the room with their computer, somewhere in this pan, they would hand you that computer, then you'd sit down and take the course. And you were the expert and you would do it. And the reason they caught them was that they were doing the course, they were doing the exams too fast because they knew what to do, right? So that's where...
But then they figure that out, John.
Hold on.
Nefarious people find another way to do it.
Well, but that's where AI should really be used, okay?
Yeah.
And I believe, and I'm going to talk about something in a sec, but there is a way now, and actually we just built a product that we're going to launch pretty soon. And I haven't said this out loud this first time, so I'm debuting here. Yeah. So we're launching a blockchain-based transaction management platform that is light years ahead of its time. It's my idea, my work, having been a realtor and knowing the technology. So what the idea is, the moment that you add a listing, it automatically feeds it in. Okay? So then you're in the middle of a transaction, and all the participants will be there. But the secret sauce is that you're going to have to get a very deep facial ID so that I know it's actually you. Because what happens in fraud is that, sure, FinTracker out of the gates, but then when you get to the transaction, it could be a completely different person. But now we're going to make sure that we identify these people in the middle of the transaction.
You had me at a deep. What did you say? Deep?
It's a deep IDV.
A deep ID feature.
That's right. It actually will make sure that it's you based on all the identifying factors. The good thing is that all the participants are going to be playing in that room. So financial institutions, lawyers, one of our partners is Terranet. So, they're the ones also doing this. And the forms go in, you waive condition on whatever, everybody gets an email.
Right.
Okay, automatically. So this is the kind of stuff that I did. I was invited to a symposium a few years ago, and I wasn't going to go, but then I was supposed to speak, but they never confirmed. Anyway, I showed up. All the inspectors for RCMP, OPP, like RICO inspectors, okay, guys, CMHC, FinTrack, all in the room, very small room, people. And I was up on the panel, and I started telling them this concept. One of the inspectors gets up from the RCMP and says, "I see it." So as soon as he says, "I see it," I get goosebumps, right? He asked a question. He says, "Can you do it for title fraud?" I said, "Yeah." So then right after, the FinTracker lady goes, "I see it too." The guy from one of the title companies gets up because everybody's complaining about the problem here. This guy's the only guy talking about solutions. So that validated the theory, and now we're almost there. We're going to try to remove all fraud from real estate transactions.
Wow, okay. So now, if you can do that in a real estate transaction, why can't you do that in the educational space?
Well, that's my point. So we should be able to put these safety nets, or at least not even a safety net, like this validation process to say that it's you.
You should be able to open up your laptop.
Yep.
That facial recognition should say, "It's Carlo."
Yep.
And I'm now doing my continuing ed courses because my face has been recognized.
That's correct.
And whether I'm doing an exam. So that's the only way that I'll buy into this, doing this remotely. Otherwise, it should be in person.
100%. And you can't fake some of these things. It's impossible. You can fake some of it, like through. So one of the things they told us at the symposium was that when they'll take the ID and they recreate it so close to themselves that you would never be able to tell. It's the same ID, but they just move a few things. So it's
tell me
remarkable.
and so I had a guy
It's remarkable.
I had a new kid come here and I asked him, how did you get identified when you wrote your exam? He says, I took out my driver's license. I put it up to the laptop. And I said, okay, John, I wouldn't recognize you on your driver's license.
No.
And the poor person on the other end who's identifying you, what are they going to say?
That's right.
I don't think that looks like you. There's a human rights complaint.
Yeah.
Waiting to happen.
Well, what happens is, it's on your phone, right? These new products are on your phone, and they're going to be administered by title insurance companies. So that if you're going to buy title insurance, you got to get past this first.
Wow.
Right. So we also are going to offer through this service PIN monitoring from Terranet, so that if someone puts something on title, you get an email immediately. Wow. So you can remediate it. This is the future. So when we talk about realtors, when we talk about technology, this is the technology that I'm excited and very proud to have created. So I believe that this is the stuff that we need to do to serve the consumer, but the realtor is the person, is the individual, is that one glue that provides the light, the real human aspect to these things, and the knowledge and the institutional.
Total agreement. I just want to make sure that our industry has the right realtors doing the right things.
I agree.
And this is part of, I'll buy into all of that stuff. So that's if that can happen the way you're describing it, I don't know how long that will take. I hope RICO or our regulators, whatever, would adopt something like that. There could be privacy issues, I guess, but now we go to the airports and
there's no privacy.
Everyone's got your face.
No.
I mean, everyone's got your.
If you're going to go borrow $1 million, right, for a house today, so I have to give my photo ID to 3 different people before I even get in the room.
Passports,
I got to give it to the realtor.
100%.
I have to give it to the lawyer. I have
Correct.
to give it to the mortgage guy. And are they taking care of that? So how hard would it be? No disrespect to those 3 organizations, but how hard would it be for someone to say, you know what, I'm going to start gleaning all these things, and I'm going to change that to Carlo, so you're going to look like me. This is insane.
Well, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. So look, John, let's conclude. Thank you very much for this.
Well, thank you for
and
having
we'll
me.
have to do this again soon.
Sure.
When this AI facial recognition comes in.
It's all happening as we speak.
It's coming. It's coming.
It is.
So listen, thank you very much. You're obviously an extremely busy person. I know we go way back, so thank you for doing this. And thank you to all of you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.